Hi, besties. Gotta wait for the train to go. Okay, now that the train is gone, we can start. So long time no see. June was not great for filming. I've been working on a video for over a month and then kind of like forgot to do stuff for it, / was waiting for Dylan to read. So that will all be coming soon. Sorry, I've been MIA, but that does not mean I did not read in June. So it's time for a June wrap up. It's July 1st. When will this video come out? It's a mystery. And I actually have notes this time because I'm trying to be more organized. So let's start. First book of June. House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I started it in May, but it took me until the beginning of June to finish it because I really underestimated how long it would take to read, even though I've read it before. I know it takes a long time to read. For some reason, some part of my brain was like, yeah, you've read it before. You can very easily do it again. But that wasn't the case. But I finished it. I gave it 5 out of 5 like I did the first time I read it. I actually enjoyed reading it so much more this second time than the first time, which I thought was interesting. I think it's because like I knew what to look for. I didn't find it as confusing. I actually felt smart this time reading it, whereas the last time I felt very dumb and did not know what was going on. I was very confused. But this time, like, I have like a whole page of like theories and stuff, which is what the next video I'm assuming will be about. I also really wish I had my own copy. So like this belongs to Dylan. And so I'm not gonna take his book and like highlight and annotate and stuff. And I'm not usually like an annotator. When I feel like when I go back to read, I feel like past Karen who made those notes is not smart, and I get embarrassed for myself, even though nobody else, it's just me. I get embarrassed. So that is why I don't like annotation, but whatever. I wish I had my own copy so that I could annotate it instead of having like a notes document in my phone with like very weird stuff that I tried to then write out in my planner. But it doesn't make any sense. So when Dylan and I talk about it for the House of Leaves video / Piranesi video, yeah, that's what's coming. You heard it here first, folks. So I actually like have things to say. Even though I've already got all these footnotes, I kind of wanted to annotate it, or at least like highlight and write little like theories and stuff as I was reading, which is very odd for me. So that's why I kind of wish I had my own copy, because I wouldn't want to do that to Dylan's. He said it was fine, but like that, I don't want to do that. That feels rude. I don't know. So anyways, 5 stars. The next book I read was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I also gave this 5 stars, but the longer I'm sitting with it, I'm like, is it more of a 4? I don't know. I very much enjoyed it in the moment. I read it at the beach. It was like, I feel like this is the epitome of a beach read. And also, I feel like in the moment I enjoyed it more than Red, White, and Royal Blue, which I also had given 5 stars. I don't know what it was about this one. I think maybe it like was less like neoliberal and like monarchist. I don't know. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. After reading House of Leaves, I really thought I was going to go into a reading slump, but it saved me. And also, I also saw another reason why it was actually like a 5-star read. I saw this TikTok that I will link down there in the description that had some very interesting critiques of One Last Stop. Most of them kind of centered around like gay history, and like things that I kind of already knew but not really. It had some very interesting critiques, so I recommend you watch it. I didn't write down like exactly what was talked about, so I can't really talk about it intelligently here, but I recommend watching it. It just has something to think about if you have already read One Last Stop. Next, I read Unmasked by the Marquess by Cat Sebastian. Look at this cover. I learned while reading this book that like these covers, I'm assuming for all of these like mass market romances with like this sort of cover, I don't even know how to describe it, like the Fabio bodice ripper covers, I don't know. I learned that this is like a bunch of pictures photoshopped together. Like they have the stock romance like model covers, and I think the shirt was already on her, but this shirt, and I think also maybe the pants, and then like the bed and the blanket were all photoshopped together, and that was mind-blowing to me. I just happened to notice that because I think I was looking to see when it was written, so I was looking at the copyright page, and then it had this part about cover photographs being like all these different stock images, and I was like, hello? I don't know why I didn't think of that before. I guess I thought that like each book maybe had like its own like little photo shoot for cover models, which I guess economically doesn't make any sense. I just realized I haven't been giving like synopses to these books. So maybe I should do that before I continue talking about just have a stroke. Before talking about Unmasked by the Marquess. House of Leaves. It's about this house that is bigger on the inside than the outside. And whenever I say that, it makes me think of Doctor Who and like my super Wholock phase. So it's about, that's the central story, and then it had like that was a film, like a documentary film that was then written about, and then this guy finds what was written about it, and everybody's going crazy because this house doesn't make sense. So that's what that's about. Also the form is very interesting, like it has a bunch of weird stuff, like this won't be a spoiler, but like, I don't know if you can see that, like, yeah, stuff like that. So yeah, that was House of Leaves. One Last Stop is a new adult romance about this girl August meeting this girl Jane on a subway and realizing that Jane is from the 1970s and is like stuck in time on the subway and she can't leave, and trying to figure out how to get her off, and they also fall in love. Is that a spoiler? I don't think so. I think it's kind of obvious going into this that there's going to be a romance. So yeah, that's One Last Stop. Now back to where we were. Unmasked by the Marquess. I don't even remember the characters' names. Oh, they're on the back. This person is Charity Church / Robert Selby. This is a story of like similar to kind of to 12th Night, where we have somebody pretending to be a man, but she does use she her pronouns. There's a little bit in the back about this on the book. Oh my gosh. There's a little bit in the back about the author's choice to use she her pronouns versus they them, but this character is canonically non-binary, and I thought that was very interesting take on one of these romances that are generally very like heteronormative, even though that isn't the case with like every single one of these. But I think that's generally what you think of when you see something like this. She is then unmasked by this man who is the Marquess. Basically, like, he figures out that she's not a cis man, and they fall in love, but then they're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? Like, you're a Marquess. You can't marry someone who has been presenting as a man, and I don't want to present as a woman because that doesn't feel right either. And that made it sound like I was making fun of it. It was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. It was my first like mass market bodice ripper Regency romance sort of thing, and I don't know if it was really my thing. I gave it 3 stars. I mean, I can see the appeal, but I don't know if it's really my genre. I don't know. I have another Regency romance that I own that I might check out at some point. I was gonna read both of these at the same time, but then I was like, no, I want something different. But yeah, I really loved seeing non-binary rep in this context, and then also just like the concept of gender euphoria in a book like this that I feel like wouldn't necessarily be seen as queer just if you were browsing the shelves. So I really enjoyed that concept. But the book was good. It was fine. It wasn't bad. So it was 3. The next 2 I do not have physical copies of with me because they were both from the library and I returned them before I could show you what they look like, because I am an amateur. So the first one was Mexican Gothic by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Let's hope this goes better than the internship interview I had where I was asked to talk about my most recent read, and this was it. And I feel like I really fumbled what I was gonna say. So fingers crossed about that. It was about, like, you probably know what it's about. That book is so popular. A woman who gets a letter from her cousin that's very strange and is like, there's people in the walls, like there are ghosts, like you have to come help me. And so she goes to rescue her cousin who lives at this like country middle of nowhere estate with her family, who are colonizers, by the way, which I think is kind of something that I haven't really seen talked about in many of these reviews. Like, nobody talks about how this family that she married into were these like this English family who moved to Mexico to mine for silver, which I think really adds to the horror and Gothic elements of it. But I gave it 4 out of 5. It took me a really long time to get into it, and then it was crazy once like you start to learn the reasoning behind the shenanigans. It's a very interesting, it's definitely the sort of book that if I had known that was what it was about, I would have picked it up sooner. And you can also definitely really see like the traditional Gothic elements in it, in like the setting and characterization. And then it kind of turns into like this little bit of a supernatural thriller, which I thought was very fun. I gave it 4 out of 5. I knocked off a star because of the slow start. And then also some of the explanations I feel like were kind of like, I don't know, and basically all of the books I read except for this one, you really have to, the phrase suspend your belief or suspend your disbelief, I don't know, whichever one it is. You know what I'm trying to say. And so, I don't know, it kind of some of it didn't really make sense, really. Like, I can accept that, like, of course it was, like, the stuff that happens in this book, the idea of it happening in real life is a little like, I don't know, but some of it I just didn't understand. If you've read Mexican Gothic, talk to me about it. I'm talking about the very end, the way that things kind of are wrapped up a little bit. That was the vaguest way I could phrase that. Like, after that reveal, I really couldn't put it down. Like, I finished it in the night when it had taken a couple days to get through it. And then my last book of the month was Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I gave it 4 out of 5 as well, for very similar reasons. This book, I don't know if it's better or worse going into it not knowing that much, but it's about these 3 people who went to a school together and their lives, like at the school and then later as adults. It was low-key spoiled to me by one of my coworkers, even though she didn't really get it exactly right, but she had like asked me like what I was reading, and I said that, and then she was like, oh, is that about this or this, because she confused it with Let the Right One In. I don't remember who wrote that, but I read it for my horror fiction class, and it was alright as well. So that kind of, then I was like, cause I was like right at the beginning of the book, and I was like, I don't know, because I haven't gotten there yet. So the whole time I was kind of thinking like, where is this gonna come in? And then it's not like things were really like super secretive, but I do think the back of the book kind of really hides what the book is actually about. And it's kind of like a science fiction-y, even though it's set in the 90s, it's like a very near future sort of world. Similarly to Mexican Gothic, I feel like there were a couple loose ends that weren't tied up, or like details that were included that I didn't really understand the purpose of. And so that is why I gave it 4 instead of 5 stars. Also, I think the writing style, like literary fiction is not necessarily my cup of tea. I try my best to read it, but it's hard. I don't know, my brain just, nothing going on in there sometimes. So yeah, so those are the books I read this month. Five whole books. Very proud of myself, patting myself on the back. I almost finished what I'm reading right now, but I didn't, and I debated whether or not to include it in this, but I have like 100 pages left, so I feel like that would be cheating. But also, something that has been continuously distracting me throughout the filming of this video is I have new neighbors whose windows like face mine, and they've decorated their living room windows with books. Like, they just have a whole bunch of books on their windowsill, just facing out. And I can't tell if it's like decoration, or are they offering them? Like, can I go over there and be like, hey, can I have some of your books? And they're also like very cool and interesting books. Like, I'm impressed by their reading taste. We have a very similar reading taste, I think. The ones that I can actually like clearly see, because my vision isn't the best. Like Everyday Sexism, Room, Final Girls. They both die at the end. I almost caught The Rest of Us Just Live Here. That's a different book by a different person. I don't want to get them confused. I've never read either of them. Verity by Colleen Hoover. Like, somebody who I feel like is definitely on Book Talk. Should I make my first TikTok and be like, if you have these books in your window, like, come across the path and say hello? But what if it's like a teenager? I don't know. I feel like an adult would do that. Like, I don't know what parent would let their kid just put these books. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense too, because I feel like they're gonna get damaged by the sun, because they have their blinds closed behind them. So then I was thinking, like, should I do that? To kind of be like, hey, hello, it's me. But I don't want to put my books on the windowsill, especially since I have plants and, like, not bugs, but, you know, little guys sometimes who hang out in my plants, and I don't want them in my books. like there's no sign. Oh, there's like We've Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. Should I put my Shirley Jackson story collection out there to be like, hey, some Gillian Flynn? I don't know. It kind of looks like one of those Camus covers, but I don't know if it actually is. Like one of those classics that have like the black and white covers. Dylan has one. I'm gonna go get it. Like these vintage classics editions. It looks like it's not one of these, but it has a very similar aesthetic. I don't know what is going on over there. When they were moving in, I didn't see anybody around like my age. Like, it was just kind of like older people. So should I befriend like some old person? But I also don't know what old person would be reading like YA fiction. I mean, no hate if you do. Like by older, I mean like my grandma's age. And I feel like at least based on like where I work and the sort of patrons who come in, like we have a very like an older community. They're not reading YA. So I just want to know like who are you? If you live in North Carolina, you're seeing this and you have books out in your windows like that, should I leave them a note that's like, hello, I also read and I like the books that you have. Could I borrow some of the ones I haven't read yet? And you can look at mine and borrow mine if you'd like to as well. I don't know. So yeah, thanks for watching. My hair is a mess because it is still damp. This whole video was a mess. Oh my gosh, it's 25 minutes. We'll try to edit that down. We'll see. So thanks for watching. Hopefully there will be more content this month. Apologies, I just kind of disappeared from the face of the earth a little bit. Bye. Wildflower update. They're looking a little wispy because I went to the beach and somebody forgot to water them, but they grew super well. And like, I'm very glad I decided to put them in here because even though I know like once they flower that their seeds and stuff can be spread by like birds and bugs and pollinators, etc. But I forgot that like, I don't know if those were actually native North Carolina wildflowers. So I felt very smart. But yeah, rip to the little burnt bits. I feel bad for them. Yeah, they're doing good.